If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay? But nothing! You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance. So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out of here!
We got a couple of pieces of Marvel Comics news that have come out the last few days, and I thought I would bring my good friend, comic book writer, editor, Joe Crawler on the channel and just kind of talk about some of it, some of the issues I think within marketing, maybe promotion. Joe, how you doing today?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, not as well as you. You know, I guess last week was pretty important for you with Backstart. It sounds like it went really well.
It seemed to go well. Yeah, no, I stopped by a local one of the bigger local shops here, and they had sold out of their first order, and we're almost out of their second. So I signed the last couple of copies they had left, and I've heard from a few other stores that they went through. And this is an indie comic. When I say they went through, they sell 100 copies, but it's still nice to hear.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw it was trending on there. I saw a couple of my friends that they said their shops were sold out. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Now let's talk a little bit. Let's talk some shop about Marvel. They've got a big event coming out, Hellfire Gala. Mm-hmm. I do think there's some confusion just within their promotion on what is Hellfire Gala supposed to be. They're essentially promoting it as an enormous trendy party with lots of different gala wear. I guess that's what there's going to be some celebrities, but we do have a promo for Planet Size X-Men, which we knew was going to be coming out. And it says 50 years ago, Giant Size X-Men changed the world, or our world. This June, Planet Size X-Men changes our universe. It certainly sounds more impactful than they've been promoting it with the Hellfire Gala costumes and whatnot. Might they be overstating the importance of Planet-Size X-Men? When you think about Giant-Size X-Men, I think X-Men up to that point was bi-monthly. They were only shipping six issues a year. The sales weren't very good, and it basically re-galvanized the franchise. Chris Claremont takes over the very next issue, has a 15-year run on the series, ends up becoming one of the most popular cartoons ever, spawning video games, a movie franchise.
5 minutes later.
Should they be equating Giant Size or Planet Size X-Men over to Giant Size X-Men? Aren't they just setting people up, maybe even themselves, for a letdown that maybe it won't live up to the implications of what that book actually meant?
Oh yeah, I have so many problems with this statement. First off, if we're being technical, Giant Size X-Men didn't change. It certainly didn't change the world 50 years ago. It was less than 50 years ago. Let's believe it was 1975. So yeah, people. No, that was. Let's not jump the gun. And additionally, it didn't. It was the start of something. That wasn't the pivotal point when Giant Size X-Men #1 came out. That wasn't a game changer. You could say that about Amazing Spider-Man 121. Death of Gwen Stacy. That was a game-changing issue. Giant Size X-Men #1 was an introduction to a new era of X-Men. You could maybe argue, closer to issue 100 with the Phoenix and 101 in that area, or when or around the Proteus saga going into the Dark Phoenix saga and all that. Yes, that changed the world. The book was selling by 1979, 1980. The book was becoming a juggernaut. Not for Giant Size X-Men #1. So technically, they might be right.
Well, maybe, but I imagine it's not like Marvel would have been promoting Giant Size X-Men #1 like this. There probably weren't really any expectations. They said we need to change up the group and introduce a new X-Men. I believe Lynn Wein was the writer. Can you get a jump start? And that was, I think, the purpose of it. So I just think comparing the importance of what Planet Size X-Men, it'll never live up to the expectations of what Giant Size starts, the beginning of what it ends up doing.
It's not currently, and again, I don't mean this to be a diss to anyone in the X office right now. It's not. This speaks more to the quality of Hoxpox, but barely anything, certainly nothing done outside of Hickman has come close to matching the promise of Hoxpox, let alone Giant Size X-Men #1. So it's like, what are we even doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I love Hellions. I think it's a really good comic book, but like the implications of it are not enormous. It's a tight little controlled narrative, and then the implications are on those characters. And this week there's a little bit of like Mr. Sinister Chimera stuff potentially happening, but that's the first time. So yeah, it feels like they're setting up themselves up for failure, and it's just there's so much confusion with the promotion. What is Hellfire Gala supposed to be? Is it supposed to be this universe-changing event? Because if that's what it's supposed to be, that's not what they've been selling.
I thought this was an event where Magneto kills Ira Glass in front of Eminem.
Something like that happens. We know he killed somebody.
Magneto just is taking out all his frustrations of this American life. And, so he kills Ira Glass so he can start, this Krakoan life and, become staple for...
You guys didn't even cover us. Krakoa's an important part of the world community.
Yeah, like you were supposed to interview me for my new memoir. Like, something like that, or maybe he ends up killing Conan O'Brien because he just hates, variety shows and late night.
Talk about bad timing. As soon as Marvel promotes Conan O'Brien being associated with Hellfire Gala, he announces his show's over.
Well, he's doing something for HBO Max, but like this is a conversation that should never spring from talking about X-Men. Like, oh, I hear Conan O'Brien's show's ending. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a confusion promotion. They're probably overstating the importance of planet-size X-Men. Even if they think that's what's going to happen, you should probably always undersell and over-deliver just as far as customer expectations. You don't want people let down, Well,
it's all over the place because the advertising and promotion for Planet-Size X-Men #1 is this is the lead-in to X-Men #1. But also, it ties directly into the Hellfire Gala. So you got to read it to understand both. And if there's one comic that's coming out in June from Marvel that you need to read, you got to read Planet-Sized X-Men #1. But also, we have other comics coming out in June that we also want you to read. It's all over the place. It's like, you saying this is the one comic we need to read, but also we got to read everything else to find out everything. Because it's like, so if this is the most important comic, does this mean, is this the comic where the X-Men team is announced and also Magneto kills whoever and the other stuff? That's where it gets confusing. It's like, but wait, you have other books spinning out of this. They can't all be tied to Planet-Size X-Men. What are you doing?
Yeah. So I think they're not getting their message out very clear. And
no.
I imagine maybe some huge things will happen, and we'll talk about them here on the channel. But I think the lead up into it has not been promising. So let's get into the other topic that I want to talk about. We know I think happening at the end of May through June and July, we're getting these Infinite Destinies annuals. It's essentially an Infinity Stone event contained in annuals. And the very last one, they gave away a big reveal that I think it's Avengers Annual #1, which is going to be the very end of Infinite Destinies, leading into that Black Cat story that has to do with the Infinity Gauntlet, that Captain America and Iron Man are going to be beaten within an inch of their life by a new villain.
Yeah.
Should they be giving the payoff? Like in the final reveal, they don't tell you who the villain is, but that's not important. Like now we know that Captain America and Thor are almost going to be killed. Like should you be giving away information? Shouldn't you just know that there's going to be a confrontation?
Well, this is part of the consequence of doing all of these condensed events, where these events are weekly or cross over multiple books, and they all are in a small window. Because the way they've been used to advertising through Diamond, you have that like minimum 2, but at least, usually 3-month sort of gap.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you're trying to solicit for these books. So you end up giving everything away just in the solicits. And if it's not the solicits for the final issues of this, it's for the next event that's you were talking about and promoting before the event's even done. So this is all a consequence of that. And yeah, I mean, like we were just talking about with the Hellfire Gala. At this point, I'd be shocked if there were too many more details remaining that would really blow people away. We kind of know everything that's going on. And now here, we know quite a bit already for this event in June. And at the rate things are going, we're going to know almost everything about it before we start reading it. It's nonsensical. This is feeding into this mentality. I don't know if you knew too many people like this. I know I know a lot of people like this. They fall out of comics. And they can talk to you about some of these storylines, and you ask them about like the last time they read a comic, and they're like, "Oh, I just look it up on Wikipedia."
Mm-hmm.
Like I keep up with, like there are people who they look up the maybe specific Marvel or DC wikis or general Wikipedia because they spoil everything before it comes out anyway, and then they decide like, I'm not going to read now. Maybe once it gets interesting, I'll read again. Which is coupled. I know the piracy conversation has been going on with the cancellation of X Factor, but it's more than just pirating. There are countless other people that are not in the equation that just look at the Wikipedia and go like, that sucks. I'm not reading it, and that's another problem. And if the storylines aren't interesting, you're not engaging people, they're not going to read it. And I feel like this is setting up for that because again, it's like, okay, the Infinity Stones could beat the crap out of Captain America and Iron Man. Yeah. Well, how could they not? They're the Infinity Stones. Like, and these are two mortal human beings. Like,
yeah, I mean, obviously there's a villain going to be wielding them, and that should be the big reveal: is that there's a new villain, cosmic, probably level villain, entering into the Marvel universe. Maybe you say he's squaring off against Cap or Iron or Tony Stark. You probably don't even need to say that, but you're just like giving too much information. Just last week, I did the solicitation for June for DC Comics. Obviously, this isn't Marvel, but it's an example. Urban Legends, Batman Urban Legends, the Red Hood story from Chip Zdarsky. I think it's a 6-parter. I really enjoy it. And there's a little kid that Jason Todd's kind of looking over, and he calls himself Blue Hood. He's like 8 or 9 years old. His name's Tyler. Yeah. Kind of emotionally connected to the kid. I'm hoping that Jason Todd is able to redeem maybe himself in protecting this kid. And in the solicitation, they tell you that the kid dies.
Yeah.
Well, first you're removing the gravity of the situation in the moment that you're supposed to have reading the comic book. But also, if you like the kid, do you really want to keep reading the books to where he's going to die? He's a little kid.
Yeah. No, it's all over the place. But one of the other things here too is we just built up a cosmic threat. We literally just finished reading it with King in Black. With Nulls coming, and it was a giant journey with an event leading into an event, and it was this big thing. And now this seems like after all that, grandiose reveal of Null and all of that fighting, it's like, all right, here's Galaxy Killer or whatever the hell we're gonna call him, and he's come to Earth too, and boy is he pissed, and he's gonna use the stones to destroy stuff because no one's interesting. And Who
The
cares?
stones are weird now. I guess they're sentient. Like they pick their wielder, kind of like Green Lantern rings. Some of them pick heroes, some of them pick villains. I guess that's supposed to add intrigue, but if you're going to do an Infinity Stones event at this point, like make it cool. It needs to be something. Like
Yeah, sure. Imagine also thinking that creates intrigue. It doesn't.
Yeah. It's something, I guess. I mean, at least it's in the annuals instead of having its own event series and then tying in all these crossovers. So at least it's a little bit of a different take, something Marvel had done back in the day. But
sure.
Does it feel important? It's going on at the exact same time as the conclusion of Heroes Reborn, Hellfire Gala. We got the Star Wars thing going on, and there's a big, there's weekly Amazing Spider-Man because there's a huge Spider-Man story going on too. Like, if it was really important, would all this be going on at the same time?
Again, it feels like an afterthought, and it tie it like directly into King in Black. It's like, okay, we had Empire. Which was not that long ago. Within the past year, we've had 2 serious, devastating invasions of Earth, followed by another giant.
We had War of the Realms before that, and Absolute Carnage. Well, I guess Absolute Carnage is a little different, but War of the Realms certainly. You had all the realms coming to Earth to battle it out.
Yeah, just like War of the Gods from DC, like 30 years before that. But whatever. So what are you guys doing? Everything is lost in these giant epic sort of contests where we're losing sight of the characters and anything interesting or compelling about the characters. They're making the characters insignificant for stories that matter even less because it doesn't matter. They'll reset it. They'll use the Infinity Stones to wish everyone back to life or whatever the hell. Who cares? And that's where we've gotten. And it's not good. It's not interesting. It's not compelling people to read these books. I'm not interested in any of this because none of it matters. Because we keep being told this is the most important book to read this month, but you also have to read everything else. And this is the most important event until the next event. And Heroes Reborn is you have to read it. It's an incredible event, but I hope you also read the unmissable Phoenix tournament and that you keep going for World War She-Hulk. And this is not good. This is terrible.
I couldn't agree more, Joe. I really appreciate your perspective. I wish we could talk about something a little bit more brighter. Hopefully, there's some good news around the corner. But you just got to be honest about it. It's like, what are you doing, Marvel?
No, absolutely. And there's plenty of stuff like, I'm sure we'll find a lot of people and people show up in the comments and say, well, I like this event or like this one I really liked. And it's like, that's great. And that is a good thing. And I want people to find stuff they like every week. It's weird that books like, Haha or from Image or some of the most entertainment I get, a month, but this is, it's unsustainable because it's this constant grind of events and there's no room to breathe. There's no room to build things up. You can't set up stakes if these people aren't stopping between events. There is no status quo anymore.
And you certainly can't set up people for a big reveal or a big emotional impact if you're giving away the big event that's going to happen in it.
Yeah. No, it's all over the place. I wish we could build up the characters again. I like the characters. I like the stories, and not everything needs to be an intergalactic invasion. You can have street level stories. That's a good thing. Allow that to happen more.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, thank you very much for coming on here, just talking about a couple of pieces of information about Marvel, and we'll have you on the channel again real soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.